Hey everybody, okay, welcome back to another Unreal stream. We're gonna be doing some IK stuff here. Ah, Dave's here, excellent. Music seems unusually loud today. I don't know if that's just because I turned it up or what. Anyway, so we're looking today to figure out what we're gonna be doing with some control rig stuff, but I'm kind of open to whatever everybody wants to do. It's once again another stream where I'm really no idea where I'm heading with this one. But I do want to learn some more control rig stuff. I had some students this week that were working on building some, well, expanding on some control rigs inside of Unreal. And it was very interesting, but also I'm very inexperienced in that area. So I want to make sure that, like, when they ask a question, I have an answer. So today we're going to be talking about IK systems and trying to figure out how to do some sort of simple IK setup that really puts us in sort of an elementary beginning point. And then we're going to expand on that idea, and as well as try to build some maybe more secondary stuff. But definitely going to try to keep it really basic so that I don't want to go into, like, I don't know, giant human IK-FK switching systems yet. We're just going to be like, let's do a simple ARM or a simple system. Like, I don't have a plan yet what it is I'm going to do, but just creating some sort of IK system that moves. And then as we go, we'll hopefully figure out something cool to do with it that can we can animate inside a sequencer. But anyway, so that's my plan. Let me switch over to the desktop. We got the scene we were working on weeks ago, where we have some sequencer file moving with a control rig example. But this is the flying environment. So I thought, well, this would be kind of a cool environment to work with. Maybe we can have some sort of elements that are like a playable cinematic happening that that you have to evade or move out of the way or something, and might be somewhere that we can start thinking about what we're going to be doing here. But to create a IK system, I do need something that has joints, skin to them, I guess. Unless you use maybe we could use the joints inside of the control rig. And then parent static meshes to them. I don't know if you can put multiple static meshes into it. Well, maybe, well, let's see if we can do that first before we get into the traditional opening up Maya and setting stuff up. But anyway, it's 2 hours of this, so I don't know. If you guys have other ideas and plans on what you wanted me to talk about or learn about, feel free to throw it out there. I'm more than happy to try something else that might be interesting. Okay, so the control rig. Let's make a this is we're gonna make. I think we're gonna try to make like a raw control rig asset here, and see what kind of things we can put in here. I don't know if we can. Preview meshes. Get to import anything else. Bring a mesh in here. Our spaceship skeletal mesh. It looks like it filters it by skeletal meshes. So if that's the case, then we are not going to be able to bring in static meshes. I just had this idea that we could, in theory, since you can actually create bones, you could have your own set of bones that could move around objects. I mean, in theory, you could take static meshes, attach them to a joint system, and then in like sequencer or something, get it to work that way. But yeah, I don't know. How do I, once you bring in a mesh, you don't really have a choice. We just remove the mesh? This idea, like, let's try a new idea, and it's like, oh, it's too late, I've already brought in the mesh. Alright, let's try this again. I have this thought that if we just bring in We just create joints. And we don't build... Oh, we don't bring any geometry in. Can we set up a skeletal system by itself? Whoa. So we'll say this is like the root bone, and this is arm 1. Arm 2. Oh, I guess before I start moving around here. Oh, there they are. I was gonna say, I don't actually see any asset in the world. I also don't see any gizmos allowing me to move it, so that's not good. It doesn't seem like I can just kind of get it to do anything by itself. It has to be part of like an existing skeleton hierarchy or something, I'm gonna guess. I mean, in theory, you could maybe tell them if you set the transform to it to go somewhere, but that's not very intuitive right now. All right, we'll jump over to Maya and we'll build something that we can work from. Dave, are you getting rained on over there? We just passed a rainstorm over here. We were supposed to have soccer, like, what was it? Not yesterday. Oh yeah, no, it was yesterday. And it was our first soccer, like, practice of, like, in 2 years. And it rained so much that there's a giant pond on the entire soccer field, even right now, from yesterday. Dave says, yeah, it's good downpour for a while. It's just been like, we're not even sure if we can even play anything next week because it's just so much water on this grass that we're like, I don't know what's gonna happen. And like they paint the lines for the field too, right? So like, are there gonna be lines anymore? Are they gonna have to like repaint the lines? It was very unexpected for sure. Kind of messed up our whole plan. Teach water polo. Yeah, that's good. We should we should just make a new game. Let's just call it water soccer. Get everybody to put their bathing suits on. I'm pretty sure the the park facility guys would be like just ripping their hair out to find out that we turned their soccer fields into a mud pit. Yeah, that wouldn't go well. All right, so we're gonna make some polygon cubes, and that's good. What we're gonna use to skin our arm. Okay, so looking back at what we're trying to do here, we got this airplane that's flying around. I was thinking like arms could be reaching out when you're avoiding them. Maybe they could be carrying things that are blocking it. You could have, like, does it reach down and up, or does it reach up and down? Or is there something cooler that we can do that I haven't considered yet? I can't think of anything else. Seems alright. You could even get it and maybe like slide along a track or something. What else can you do? I've only got one simple IK, so it really just only bends one way. I mean, in theory, you could get it to bend, and then the bottom half of it could bend as well, and you could get like a nice double thing, but that's getting too complicated. All right, so we'll start something simple. I think I can change it pretty easily if I need to. So this would be one arm that would, it's like, I'm thinking it's coming off of a wall. So like it would be kind of down here. So one block like that kind of thing. And then another block that will come down like that. Now do I want I probably want to rig it so that I'm not working on angles, because it's always a pain in the butt to do angles. So I'll keep this one straight, and maybe I'll do this one on an angle like this. And it's totally normal and fine to make these into like proxy shapes that you can kind of work with, and then just tweak it later. That's actually a pretty good workflow, because you don't really want your final assets when you're just kind of experimenting with gameplay anyways. But I don't know where I'm going with this afterwards, so who knows what I'm trying to make. And then maybe we should put some sort of object at the end as well, that you just make a cube again, I guess. That represents kind of an arm or some sort of latching device. Let's see. It was like this, and it was able to pick stuff up like that. Okay, and then we'll create some joints for it, which is pretty easy. Maybe I'll organize my mesh a little bit here. So let's go to rigging. And we'll put together a couple joints here from the front view. Turn on X-ray joints and also grid snapping. So the joints go right to a grid point. Now when you're making an IK system, it is important to have a joint system that is at least giving some kind of angle, and this is a mistake you often see with people building arms and legs, particularly with the legs, because it's tempting to make the joint perfectly straight. Like you make it from the hips to the knee and then the knee to the feet. You make it perfectly straight, but when you're putting an IK system on that, the IK doesn't know which way to go. It doesn't have a natural bend process, so it just sort of picks whatever direction it wants at the end of the day. So it's always good to kind of put a little bit of an arc on it so that you're giving it some direction of where you want it to be, and that ends up being pretty good. Let's see if I can snap these as well. That might be a little bit nicer. I didn't even get the control. I'm holding all kinds of buttons here. D and V to snap it. And I'm going to put. You can hold X to put on your grid snapping, so that we can get these pieces to be semi-accurate, I guess. Okay. And that's it. Now I just skin it to the meshes. So grab my meshes and my joint chain, find the skinning. You know what's really neat is that I'm working with working on the with the group that's working on the tech artist course, and my job is to kind of review their videos, make sure we're all consistent with our quality control. But what's the bonus is that I'm learning like tons. Every time I'm watching these videos from these guys, I'm like, oh, that's great. Oh, I didn't know that. So I was watching one for from Will today. It was all about like landscaping, and it was fantastic. I was like, wow, this is great stuff. I didn't know any of this. So Dave's like, can I help with the review? Yeah, exactly. Actually, you asked me that before, and I was like, yeah, I should try to see if we can get that working, but it's a little too early at this point to make that call because we're still putting it together. But anyway, the course is going well so far. It's definitely getting some nice content. And even the stuff that John Robbins has been making, it's about rigging stuff. So I'm like, I should already know most of it, but he still brought up a few things. I'm like, wow, that's great. That's a great tip. I wish I had known that years ago. And like he talks about how to do the weights and stuff and his strategies and techniques and what he likes doing. And it's nice to see it. Another perspective. And they're quick too. That's what's nice about them. You can just sort of like, we're not getting into like, oh, we're going to do an entire character rig. It's just like, oh yeah, this is the concept, this is the principles, these are the things I avoid, and then we keep moving. Okay, so this is about what I'm expecting. It's like, it's squeezing in, but that's because our skinning is all decided to be very specific, kind of like what we talked about in previous streams. So we're gonna do a little bit of skinning here. I can get my tools to be lined up here. One of the tricks that John talked about in the video was just like taking the if you want a really nice blend from like one joint to the next, you just take the two joints and you basically use the smoothing, and you just use that smoothing to I don't even know how to explain it here. You have to lock out the other joints, but like you can get a blend from one joint to the next nice and mathematically correct because of the smoothing tool. And as long as you have it all locked out, you just like boom, 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 and it just smooths out nice and evenly. And I'm like, I never thought of that. Because there's a way in 3D Max that you can do it, but it's very mechanical. And then you come to Maya and it's very like, paintbrushy and stuff. But to use that smooth tool to your advantage to find out those mathematical differences, it's like, brilliant. But I don't really practice skinning enough to really be too familiar with all those little subtle tricks. But it is nice. John is a lot more experienced in just having to deal with those on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so what am I doing here? I need to turn basically joint 1 into a full. That is not the tool. This is it's the modeling toolkit here. This is what I'm looking for here. And we want to do replace. Make sure that it's white. Then we flood it. Flood what? Oh, flood that selected mesh. Go to joint 2. Select the other mesh. Go back to our skinning. Flood that white. And then select our third mesh. And select our third joint. Flood that white. And we should start making some hierarchy or something. We haven't actually talked about file management yet, so let's try doing that. I'm just gonna put that into. I really gotta organize my folders a bit better because I've gotten into a habit of just putting everything in a temp folder. But it is like gotten to a point where I'm like, this temp folder is ridiculous. I need to start managing this. We'll put it in here. Hey, it's Ahmed. What does flood mean? Oh, flood just means fill all the vertices with 100% influence to that joint. So, and it's based on the mesh that you have selected. So it doesn't always work, but in the case of like having a full body mesh, you hit flood, you're going to be like wiping out tons of painting that you've done on the other joints. But in the case of, unless you're flooding it, no, well, I don't know, it's all context sensitive. But in this case, we just have these separate little individual meshes, so we can say everything on that mesh 100% influenced by that one joint. That makes sense. Hope that helped. Dave, it's not a temp folder until if you keep everything in it. That's right, I know. This is a bad habit. And if my hard drive dies, it's like, oh, everything was in my temp folder. I'm usually pretty good about making sure that I'm using source control and everything, but it's been so sporadic lately that I haven't really... Sometimes I don't want it in my source control, and sometimes I do. This might be an example of something I do want to put in my source control. Maybe we could talk about that today, if you want to. Okay, arm rig. So what we should be having is a nice like clean joint system that's, you know, there isn't any distortion when you're rotating it. These joints will influence just those selected meshes. And they all have to be skinned, not parented, in order for it to work in Unreal. Okay, I think we're ready to export it now. Oh, let's name these first. And so, like I said before, this is a nice workflow where, you know, you're doing something really basic, but you can always come back through this as an iterative process. So, but as you're doing that, you need to be thinking, okay, well, what kind of stuff would I want to do in the future? So even this joint naming, I'm probably going to have to be more careful about what I do it, so I don't want to change my joint names too much because it'll just break any animation or break any skeletal meshes that I've got set up. So then they'll have to be like reset and reconfigured. But going back and forth, fixing geometry, updating things, moving stuff around, that's all a very normal pipeline process when you're developing. All right, so export selection, and we're gonna put that into our folder. I should really like, look, I even have my Perforce folder right there. I should probably get this. Some projects I was working on like months and months ago that I have totally forgotten about. So I think the problem is I don't really know where I'm going to go with them. There was one that was doing like facial capturing, and then I got stuck, and I'm like, I need to sit down and figure out what went wrong there. But at the same time, even if I do get it going, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. So, oh, and there's this interesting project that we're doing at that Renata, one of the TAs, is setting up that we're talking about now in our open sessions, where we're dealing with animations, and multiple students are making individual animations to build up like a sequence of like a character, playable character in Unreal. And so we're making the run cycles and walk cycles. And I think that kind of thing is kind of a neat example of how you can really start sharing the workload with other students and collaborate together and end up with a product that everybody can be working together. And if you keep your scope small and you keep your concept simple, you can actually achieve goals and then spend your time polishing and really have something that you look back on and you go, oh, that was really cool. Even if you're like animators. Like, for example, there's this really neat project that came from a Kickstarter campaign, and I feel like I'm jumping around on my topics a bit, but I did post it, and I've talked about it many times before because it's been around for a couple years, but they did just announce their... Sorry, I'm trying to find this panel here. Oh, I'm right at it. They did just announce their release date, but what's really neat about this project is that it's just made by one animator. And I think these are really inspiring stories because they're inspiring, but they're also like, there's a caution warning here where this guy has no life for the last 2 years. And he's obviously being driven by the guilt of taking everybody's money from Kickstarter to actually produce a product that he can that everybody has. So every time he does these little updates, because I've been following him, he's just like, I just crawled out of my office and room and I haven't seen daylight for thousands of years. So like, it's a huge sacrifice because games are a massive amount of work. But this little project, I'm not really expecting it to be like an epic 50-hour game. It's just going to be a small little project, but it's got a lot of nice elements of polish, and he, as an animator, he's really brought some nice features to it that, you know, usually what you see from like game designers and programmers are much more mechanical based, and they're kind of lacking in that nice polish with when it comes to movement and stuff. So this is where he kind of brings something interesting to the table, and being an animator myself, I find that really interesting. So yeah, I find it helped fund his Kickstarter as well, and I'm looking forward to being able to play it when it comes out. And I'm definitely giving him lots of leniency, where, you know, it's just one guy doing it. It's crazy. It's a huge accomplishment, but it's also really inspiring to know that one person, if you really dedicate your time to it, and you can turn something into something interesting, and as long as you respect the scope and how much work it takes to get these things finished. And this isn't like, he's not a student from what I understand. He worked in the industry for years as an animator, and then he started exploring how to do stuff in Unreal. But yeah, it's not where I'm not trying to match that kind of thing today. It's like, okay, let's see if I can get a IK system working. Where was that folder I was going to put it in? Oh, here's our banana project from our, speaking of our animation team group. Which I'll probably take a, you know, I don't know if I'll do it today, but when we start getting some polish and something interesting to look at, we'll talk about it in these streams and show how the progress as we're going through it. Control rig examples, that's where I'm heading here. And what am I doing? I'm exporting, didn't I already export it? Guess not. Oh, I saved it, that's what it was. IK arm rig. I don't know if I want to do animation yet. Just smoothing groups. We're doing the skeletal mesh. I should put SKM in here. Save me from having to rename it later. I guess I should get rid of rig. IK arm. And I guess we're ready to go to the next stage here. Alright, we're going to import that IK arm. Sorry, source, IK arm. We're going to make a new skeleton for the skeletal mesh. And seems to have come in okay. Oh, that doesn't look right. That's weird. Go back to our Maya file and see what I did wrong. Oh, I got my meshes in there. How did I get my meshes in there? You're not supposed to be part of that hierarchy. Let's try that again. Export selection. Do a little re-import. There we go, all fixed. Okay. So now we're gonna make a control rig. So I right click on my skeletal mesh. Let me save everything first. Create a control rig from that skeletal mesh so I don't have to assign the mesh to it anymore. And we're gonna create some controls. Now, this is interesting because I've done it. I remember doing it one way where you build the controls and then you link it to the thing. But there was a technique where you're supposed to like build new controls based on where if you build it from where the position of the joint is, it's supposed to make it from where it is. I don't know if that made any sense. I build a new control from that joint and a new control from this joint. I don't have to figure out where the location is. It'll already be in that spot, so that's handy. But then you get these like little red ones, which are your offset groups that give you the positional space to make sure that that control goes in the right spot, I guess. And this is where I get sort of lost. First, let me just rename these things. Control. Alright, so we have all these elements here, and then do I unparent this by, like, you can hold Shift P and unparent it. I do hold the same spot, but they are supposed to be a hierarchy as well. So if I put this into the hierarchy back to where the joints are, oh wait, it's working. Alright, never mind. They're still in the right place. And get rid of those. Last time I did that, they all kind of shifted and moved as soon as I did it. So there you go. I was able to make all the joints without having to, or make all the controls without having to decide where the joints go. And then I gotta go to my details and switch these to be controls that look a little better than a giant weird sphere thingy. So I'm gonna make just a simple. Whoops! I just made a sphere again. Looking for a square or a box. Box might be good. That is a huge box. Oh, maybe my rig is really small. I never actually checked. Might want to fix that before I get too far into this. Oh, these are centimeters, and it is going to be really tiny. This is the problem when you're working with CG, is it's hard to tell sometimes what the distances are. Yes, it's only 9 centimeters high. It is pretty small. Okay, that sucks because I've already skinned it. And so now if I scale it up, it actually changes all kinds of stuff here. So, time to be boring. As I really do want this size to be more accurate to its proper scale. I mean, I can size it up in Unreal as well, but it's not a good idea. It's better just to like make it correct sizing first. It's the better workflow. So 6 feet is like, what, 180 centimeters, so we could make it a size of a human. I wonder how big that little spaceship is, though. It may not be that huge. We're going to try to go for like human size. And so when I scale these, the skeleton up, I'm going to have to like, I mean, I could make a group underneath it. We can scale up the group. And it looks like it's working fine, but it does create a lot of problems for me, especially with the skinning. So let's see if I can see what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna try unbinding the skin, geometry goes super tiny. Let's see if I can move the mesh into that group that has the scaling. All right, I thought that was going to work. Yeah, that did not work. All right, whatever. We're just gonna name these 18. And then we're gonna scale these 18. Oh, I forgot to freeze them first. Another thing I should have done. Wait, remember when I said it was like gonna be easy to do this? So regret saying that. All right, let me just freeze the scaling. Kids. Freeze all the translations. Oh, and freeze rotations. Should have just said freeze all. Okay, so that's all frozen, and then we have our joint system, which is no longer binded, but it's at scale at the same size. I'm gonna hold Shift P. Now I'm gonna have to freeze the scaling on this one first. This is the group. And I can hit Shift P so that the joints are not any different. And let's make this radius a lot bigger. And we'll go back and reskin everything again. So we're back to the wonky skinning. And then we're gonna take the geometry and back to our paint skin weights option box. And grab the root and grab the root mesh, which is that one, arm. And we'll flood that again. It's like review for what we just did. What was it? Oh my goodness, 30 minutes ago. Oh man, progress. It's not going well. Good thing is though, I can just update this into Unreal and we'll have a bigger arm. So that part will go pretty smoothly, hopefully. And so that's now been changed so that we get back to where we were. Let's save the new changes. But yeah, changing the size of stuff inside of a rig is really complicated, and you'll find that on a lot of the character rigs, there's a lot of complex wiring going on just so that you can change the scale of your character. It's doing all these fancy little tricks to make it work so it doesn't look ridiculous when you scale it. Okay. So we'll just, let's close this for a second here, because I don't know what that's going to happen when I scale it up. That explains why there's these giant blobs in the control rig though. And we'll go back to our skeletal mesh. I could actually just right click on it and say re-import. And it says failed to merge bones, something in the hierarchy changed. Doesn't matter, we'll just override the changes. Now it's a lot bigger. Close that. Save all. These little thumbnails, I think there's a way you can update the thumbnail. What it is. The asset action or something. Pretty sure there was a way to re-trigger that. I haven't done it in so long, I have no idea how to do it again, but I feel like there was a way to do it once upon a time. So we'll go back into the control rig now and we'll see what it looks like. Yes, so we still have, look, even the skeleton is still the old one. Wow, that's interesting to know. It's almost like you can't change the size of a skeleton with a control rig. That could have been pretty devastating if I had gotten too far in there. Or there's some sort of option that I hadn't properly learned about yet. Okay, so here's our new control rig. We're gonna do that all the controls again. Create new controls in here. Rename it. Why are they called 22 and 11? Oh, that must have been like arm 1, and then it was like another one. Is that what it's named in Maya? No. That must have been maybe that merging bones issue they brought up. Oh, that's probably why the other control rig wasn't matching, because it was still the old skeleton. Huh. That's weird. Well, I guess knowing that information, I could have probably, if I wanted to recover it, just created a new skeletal mesh and then reassigned it to the other skeletal mesh. But anyway, doesn't matter. I'll just do the naming convention I see here. At least root didn't end up getting renamed. Alright, so again, we're going to take these 3 controls that have been created where the joints are. And how do I do this again? Middle, or I hold Shift P, I guess. And then I can get rid of these and put these back into their hierarchy. There we go. Getting back to where we were. Change these into box. I think that was a cool idea. Box. Make it half the size. Yeah, half the size. Okay. So now we get to the part where we're actually going to make it so that when I move these objects, they're actually going to do stuff. Oh, let's just make this like thick instead of thin, because it's easier to select if they're not super thin. What is the other one? Solid? Oh my goodness. Alright. It's very industrial. So I'm going to take the these objects and I'm going to move them into here. So we're going to get the transform of, sorry, no, I'm doing it backwards. Get the transform of the control, and then set the transform of the root, or the bone, I mean. And then you can assign that to your transform, and that will allow you to take the controller and manipulate that. Why is the joint still in the same spot? Oh, I guess that's because it's not propagating to the children. There we go. So we just do that over and over and over again for 3 different controls. I'm debating whether or not to talk about the other cool thing that we learned the other day, which makes it look excessively elaborately complex, but basically you can take these 3 joints and drag them in, and you can create a collection, and that will build an object that has all of your bones already pre-populated, which is kind of a slightly faster way to deal with it, especially if you had a really long and complex hierarchy to work with. But it's like, well, what do you do with this node now that you have it? And as you can see, the little icon in here, it's an array of objects, and then you can take that output as an array and you can get things from it. So just like in blueprints, you can use all the same sort of functionality, like do a for loop, and iterate through this index object by okay, so a for loop, you'd want to know what the length is. I'll go through it, even though this is overkill, but it was kind of cool that we figured it out the other day, and I'm like, oh man, this could be very useful. Problem is I haven't actually explained what the struggle is, so we're just sort of like, why are you doing all this extra work? But I guess this, so it's not too hard to show you what the struggle is, but basically if you were to do this manually, you'd have to sorry, I keep doing it wrong. Set the transform and get the control. I don't know if I just did that or not. And then you'd have to link that up there as well. So that'd have to happen every single time, just like that. Just so that you can get each piece to move. And in this case, it's not that complicated because we've only got 3 joints. So, you know, I literally do this one more time and we're done. But the idea is that this system allows you to manipulate how you want to do the transforms on a singular basis, and it will update to all the other iterations of it. So if you have like 13 of these, then you only have to modify it once, and it'll populate all the other ones. So this concept might be interesting to people, but it might also be like, what are you talking about? So I'm not sure how much fun this is. But what's happening here is we're taking the items, we're getting the total amount of items in that collection by saying count. We're putting them into here, so we're going to loop through the number of items that are existing inside of this collection. And then we're going to take that index number and say, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and that's going to pull from this collection of different items. You're going to get output of the first one, the output of the second one, output of the third one. So we just have to go. This is the execute pin that's going to happen when it's all finished, but this is the one that's going to happen when for each iteration. So what I want to do is grab a well, I think I can just say, oh yeah, so the other challenge here is that I have to make a collection of controls as well. So we have a collection of joints and a collection of controls. The nice thing is they auto-populate it for you, so it makes it pretty easy. And I guess you can also add extra ones if you wanted to. And now I've got to figure out how to get rid of extra ones. So that should be exciting. There we go. Remove array element. So we're going to do the count of, we only need to know the count of one of them. We go through it. We want to know what the, this is the item that's coming out here, is going to be, for this case, it's going to be the first joint object. So we want to set the transform of the first joint object. And we're going to do a very similar process for the other one. We just say, pull out of here and go get item at index. It's the same index because they should match up. And this is going to be the controls. So I want to get transform from the controls. And we'll put that into the thing here. And we're going to say propagate to children, although I don't know if you need to because we are going to be doing each of the objects along the chain. I think you probably still need to hit that checkbox though. Anyway, so all this other stuff I'm doing here is irrelevant because we should already be doing it. And when I compile it, we'll see here. We'll see what I didn't do. This is a moment of truth here. How useful have I made this situation? Oh, I went to complete it. It's supposed to actually go to execute here, so I don't want that one. I want this one. Okay. Ooh, look at that. It's doing some interesting things already, which I don't even understand why. Maybe inherit children is not a good idea. Oh, I don't even get it. We're getting what? The transform of each of them? I feel like that's working properly. That one's working properly because it doesn't matter. But this one, not only is it moving, but it's also... Oh wait, it's not broken anymore. What the heck? Okay. I think it was the propagate to children. Let me try it again. Turn it on. Compile. No, it's not. What the heck was that all about then? Why was it acting all weird? Don't know. It was magical. Anyway, so now we have a fairly complex looking system that does a simple operation of 3 different bones. And I only talk about this because it could be useful one day, but it wasn't really necessary in this case. But we'll just go with it. Because now we got what we need, which is a system ready to go for our IK system, which I haven't even talked about how to do IK yet, nor do I know how to do it. So that's really our next challenge. Ahmed says check initial. Check initial is something I'm supposed to have on. Is that what you're saying? Or maybe it's the bottom one that was supposed to be on. That one makes it to that. And that one. Yeah, I don't know. Check initial seems to be not useful for all of them. Unless you know something I don't know, which feel free to share because I'm always trying to figure stuff out. Okay, so let's talk about IK because that's really the next challenge right now. And that's what I came here to do today. We got to figure out how to make it so that there is a control on the end that we're going to grab and it's going to move it. Right now what we have is an FK system, which I'm happy to just disable and set up an IK system on the side. But I'm pretty sure there's a node called IK, basic IK, or maybe the other one that's like different kind of IK. So let's do some playing around here. The first bone is the root, item A, item B. And so I assume that the other one is the last joint, which is the end of the joint chain. And the effector item probably could be like a control or something. That did not seem to be very good. I don't know. Should we make it a joint? There is some videos out there that talk about how to do IK joints. So I am planning on using that once I get stuck here. Because it seems highly likely. What have I done though? I've sort of made the one joint the effector. How is that going to work? Let's put it back to a control and see what happens here. If I actually start compiling and moving stuff around here. Nope. This is the first time seeing Unreal, so thanks for making it look hard. That's awesome. You're welcome. Jokes apart, I'm planning on start learning 3D as per semester, so still a 2D as a game art designer student. Oh, yeah, awesome. Yeah, this is I guess for somebody first looking at Unreal, it does seem like we're getting into some unnecessarily complicated stuff, but I think this is pretty neat stuff. For me personally, this is a pretty high priority to learn because there's just a lot of reasons why it's useful, and the smoother you can get into working with this kind of thing, the better it will be to find reasons to use it. And so IK is like one of your basic essentials for building some sort of functionality that works nicely, and definitely want to get my head around how to do it. Oh. Dave said my mic is picking up possible background noise. Is that possible? I mean, is that true? Oh, okay. Thanks, Dave. Keeping an eye out. Too bad I didn't read your message like a good 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes after you wrote it. Let's see. I need to find this video link that has the thing, or I need to find it online. Here it is. My trusty students have provided it for me, so hopefully it's a useful link here. I'm pretty sure I've actually watched this video once upon a time, but this goes to show how much my brain does not keep track of things. Hey, Steven's here. Welcome. I don't hear anything bad. Oh, okay. That's good to hear. Also, maybe the effector is the one you want to move. Yeah, see, that's what I thought too. I was trying to make it so that it was like the controller, but then the controller got shot down to 0. So, and I can't move it now. So clearly I'm on the wrong track. But thanks for the for having the same wavelength as me, so that we can. I don't feel like I'm the only one. Let's see if I can get to this video again. Where did it go? Here it is. Alright, so he's assigned, in this case, let's just take a look at what he's doing here. He's got a whole bunch of joints for the whole body. He's got one IK foot that is assigned to the foot, and he's built a basic IK like we have with the upper leg, bone, same bone twice, and the foot is the effector. Interesting. Wow. Okay, so he just brought in the controller, sent the transform to the effector, and that realigned the foot to a forward base. The effector is the bone foot left, which is the joint just below the legs, and then the lower leg is the joint right above it. This is so weird. Let's see what he's got working, if that actually functions or not. Wow, just like that, it worked. Okay, well, let's try that. So we get this control here. Get the control. Set the transform to the effector. Make this the, not the control, but the joint. The last joint. Oh, how did he do it again? Was it the first joint? So this is so weird to me. I don't understand why that like made the whole IK system. Usually you pick the top joint, pick the bottom joint. So both of those were the top joints, I guess. So root, and arm. Well, at least I can freely move that around now. me just double check here. We got get transform, global space, control, transform into there. Oh, Sarah's here. Hey, Simon and company. Had you going in the background. I'm just sitting for a few moments. Okay, awesome. So we've been here. You've been here this whole time. Let's see. What other idea could I come up with? What if this was arm 1 and arm 1? Item B is arm 11. Oh, yeah, ignore the 11. I don't know. Unreal decided to change it to 1-1 instead of a... Unless you have another idea that I'm not thinking of. I could, like, just do all of them, I guess. I haven't tried that yet. Dun dun dun. Oh, look at that, it worked. Why didn't I think of that? Just make all of them. 1, 2, 3. Oh wait, that's not actually how I have it set up. Oh, because I hit undo. Hold on a sec. Don't hit undo. Hit compile if you want to put stuff back. I never remember that. Oh no, I've broken it. So root 11, compile. There we go. Got it working again. Beautiful. Still don't quite understand the logic, but it's beautiful. Sarah's only put 30% of my attention. Okay. I will say only 30% of the dialogue to you. Also, Sarah says, sorry for my kick animation the other day. It was very rushed. Haven't had watched through the recording yet. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, your kick animation was fine. It's at this point, because we're talking about the animation system where we have a group project where everybody's building animations together. It's actually it's a time where everything's very placeholdery and proxy. So you could have a really rushed animation and it still could be very effective at least giving you a good sense of where you're at. It's often a mistake where you'd spend too much time polishing in the beginning and then you find out, oh geez, most of the stuff's gonna get thrown away. So it's not a bad workflow. I think maybe the biggest issue you had with your animation was just there was too much time before the kick and after, so the motion itself wouldn't sort of feel like it connects with the button push very well. That might have been one of the concerns, but you know, you don't really know until you try it. So, and we weren't really ready to talk about how to do combat yet at that point. All right, so this works now. That was awesome, but now I gotta think about what I'm gonna do about it. Animating it inside of sequencer was an idea, and then also attaching something to the end of it was another thing we wanted to do. Like, what do you do if there was like more than 3 joints? Like, would you be totally stuck? Like, I'm still not really comfortable with how the logic of this works here. But I can't deny that, like, that exact setup is what you need to do. Each joint needs to be influenced, but if you had an additional joint, it would need to be a different kind of IK. I guess that's what they have other IK systems too. It's like, oh, basic IK transform solves the 2 bone IK given transforms. Note this node operates in world space. Solves the 2 bone IK positions. I wonder what the difference is. And then we have this one, the FABRIK solver can solve n bone chains using the forward and backward reaching inverse kinematics algorithm. That sounds simple. For now, this node supports only single effector chains only. So the items might be like an object, a collection or something, and it would be the same principle, but you could have any number of chains. That's what I'm hoping that means. Wait, I guess we could test it out, couldn't we? After all, we do have the collection of joint chains right here. And then we can just switch this over to execute here. This is a nice thing about this rigging system, is that like you're not really breaking anything because it's all being built on the real time. So you can try ideas like this and it's not like you're gonna, everything can just go back to the way it was. Wow, did that really just work? Oh my goodness, look at that. It was so much easier. Got the same system working. I didn't have to establish which joint each one is. You just have to bring in this collection, which is super easy, by the way, for anyone who's missed it. You just grab them, drag in all of them, and say create collection, and it builds that node. And I think it's important that this probably was listed in a way that matches the hierarchy, I guess. I can't see any reason why I'd want to use this now, but maybe there is. They do have like pole vectors and stuff, which I don't see any pole vector options in this one, so might be interesting. Steven says, should the middle box move? Oh no, the middle box doesn't have to move. DCE. Oh good. I will get on it today. Oh, this is Sarah. DCE. These boxes were for the IK system. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, if I wanted the IK system back again, I could just like hook it up to here. And now we have, and recompile. And now we have an IK, sorry, an FK system working again. But I don't know, it's possible that you could get it to switch back and forth between IK and FK. Wait, it's still IK. How is that possible? It's not possible. You're not set up to be IK here. What the heck? What? There's nothing telling it to be IK. How does it know? I keep saying IK, I mean FK. That's awesome. It's working like I was trying to explain, but I don't know why it's working like that. It's supposed to be still broken. Ah, man. I'll never learn how to stop hitting that undo. Maybe that's what this means. It's like FKIK system or something? How does it know what... Like, there's nothing that talks about chain. Alright, I'm just going to save it, close it, reopen it, and see if that still works, because I just don't believe that actually is possible. Oh my goodness. What am I missing here? What? Whatever. You'd think that would make me happy, but it's actually making me feel really uncomfortable. Like I'm walking into this trap where I'm going to find out later. Oh, it didn't work. DCE was a mistype. Oh, okay. Sorry. Sarah says, okay, I have the video open to watch it later. Having a house inspection at the moment. Wow. Yeah, that would be a distraction. Yeah, I mean, the video was kind of interesting. Actually, to be fair, we covered a lot of good stuff, so... Oh! Ahmed says, what's the full for IK? Full for IK. What's the full for IK? So... This is... It's all the execute is hooked up to the IK system, as far as I can tell. What if I just put it back to the basic one? Is that gonna break it? Then we'll know. It's still magically working. I don't know. Maybe it's really obvious and I just haven't, I'm just not thinking about why. Anyways, it really is technically a good problem. I just don't know if I'll ever be able to reproduce that. Let's see if I can do that in the sequencer file. What's the form, full form for IK? Oh, inverse kinematics. And then FK is forward kinematics. So forward kinematics is very basic rotations where you take the joint and you can only rotate it, you can't translate it, which is kind of what every skeleton is in a way. If you don't have a control rig, you have to grab a joint and you have to rotate it one at a time to get it to do stuff. And there's a lot of good reasons why FK, forward kinematics, is really a great way to animate. It has a lot of positive benefits. But then if there's certain situations where IK comes in really handy. And usually it's when the object needs to like attach to a world position. And so during IK you can have it so that as this translates straight, both this joint and that joint are being rotated at very minute angles to allow this object to stay in the same spot in the world. So that's very beneficial from an animator's perspective if you want, say, this to contact an object that's in space and you don't want to have to keep tweaking these rotations by little by little. So that's huge. And that happened in the 90s when IK was invented. So it's been around for a long time and we still use it and talk about it on a regular basis. Okay, I'm gonna go with this. Oh yeah, so the idea was that I was gonna make a sequencer file. We're gonna try and animate some stuff. So the long-term plan is we're gonna have this character that, I mean, this is all part of the template. I was gonna put these arms as like things that you have to avoid, and we're gonna probably have to move this environment around a little bit more so that we can get a little more interesting. But oh, we still got this other guy from before. We don't. Oh, it's being referenced by a cinematic or something. So let's try to do the cinematic next. Now I'm in Unreal 4, so creating these cinematics with control rig is way more complicated than it was in Unreal 5, I noticed. And one of the big takeaways that I had when I was working on it last time was that the actual asset that you're going to put a control rig on has to be in the environment. And I think in Unreal 5 you can just grab the control rig and drag it in. Oh look, you can do it in Unreal 4 too. So I'll take that comment back. And so when you drag it in, not only it's doing a bunch of stuff, it's putting it into a sequencer, and it's enabling your animation tab, which is important to use because it's what's activating the control rig visibility part. So that animation tab is down here, and this is a plugin that has to be enabled, so it doesn't necessarily exist when you first create a project. Like, it's not loaded, I mean. So just make sure you always have your control rig turned on for that to work. Probably just dragging in the scene would have given me a completely different result if I didn't have that plugin. Now this one does show red right now, which means that it's missing the asset. So I'm a little bit worried still that the asset is not fully in the environment. I think if you guys are hearing background noise, then I know why you're all worried about it before. This is the, not worried about it, but letting me know. That would be the bathtub being turned on. which is unfortunately too close to the room, my office room here. Okay, so also, why is this flickering? I don't understand that either. Oh, yeah, look at that way that's not working. Let's try to assign this actor to the same object. The arm, skeletal mesh, control rig. This isn't exactly giving me the satisfying results I was hoping for. Steven's gotta go. Alright, man. Thanks for hanging out. I'll update you if you show up at the open session with anything that I learned. That might be irrelevant. We got this skeletal mesh spaceship, which I was part of this other cinematic. I'm gonna try and simplify this down a bit, I think. Shot one. I don't know, there's only like the one cinematic near. I don't think this dragging to the world was very useful. I'm starting to question the ease of use after all. Let's try the arm control rig object, drag it into our sequencer. Oh, these got little red dots on them, which means that they're not actually permanently in the world, they're just brought in. Maybe I'll take that back. I think it's a little electricity bolt is what I'm looking for. Oh, this really is not going very smoothly at all. I'm going to try to do some changes here to see what the actual technique is, but I don't really think this is the best way to approach it. Let's just bail on this idea. What we're going to do is create a is this the other intake shot? Yeah, see, that's not working either. Isn't this was a lot easier. In Unreal 5. Alright, we're gonna make a new sequencer. We're gonna see if we can do this manually. Level sequence, we're gonna make a IK arm. So the idea is it would be like a looping cycle inside of the sequencer. So I'm actually considering what kind of animation name this is going to be, because it'll be kind of a I'll just call it Move 01, I guess. And now, what if I put, instead of the control rig in there, I put just the regular skeletal mesh? This is what I did last time. So you bring in a regular skeletal mesh version of it, which is a little bit less unstable. I can get rid of that control rig one. And then we go back into our sequencer and you drag it. So now that I've brought it in the world, it's more likely to work. I drag that object into, oh look at this, it's still not working. I'm clearly doing something wrong here. I don't have levels on, do I? This is so weird. Do you have anything else turned on? Anyway, so with that object you can add control rig, but it has to actually be not red. Ah, man. Alright, let's try reopening the project. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on here. I mean, realistically, if I have to have my sequencer file inside my level, that might be something that I gotta do. I don't remember if that's what I did last time, but you can keep sequencer files inside your content browser, or you can bring them into your level. The advantage with them being in your content browser is that they're dynamically able to load from any level. But the advantages of them being in your level is that that you can dictate when they're there or when they're not there. So we'll try to open this one up, open up level sequencer down here. We'll try to bring in an asset that also exists in the world, which we gotta do still. Try to bring it in the control rig or the skeletal mesh. It's working so well. It's just amazing. I'm missing the options that I need right here because it's still red, which I'm assuming is because the object bound to this track is missing. And I don't quite understand what these little red dots are for. I forget why they're there. But they're definitely indicating something that's different about these particular assets that I'm working with. Let's just go to a new level and try this again, because I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. Let's bring in that skeletal mesh. Still got red dots on it, so clearly that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about here. Oh, but look, they're not red anymore. So now it works. I don't know. Something weird about that level. Let's see if I can find these options that I was looking for here. Here, section. Oh, maybe it wasn't where I thought it was. Oh, I already have a controller here. I don't need to do that. So if we grab... We have two controls here. If we grab this control... There we go. We still got the IK system working. Grab this control. It took me so long to get to this point. It's ridiculous. And look at the mesh is flickering as well. Okay, well, the IKFK system still works even though I don't quite understand it. Maybe that's why it's so crazy flickery. I don't know. What if we brought another object in, like that other spaceship? Let's see if that flickers. Bring that in. Control rig, ship. Now we have 2. That one isn't flickering, so that's something anyway. You know what? What if I go into the control rig of the asset and get rid of some of those extra nodes? Maybe just having them present in the scene is causing it to activate. And it is fighting with 2 different setups. So if I just like... Oh, maybe this for loop is set to auto activate. No, it's not. Just disconnect that. Does that let me... No, it still lets me do that. I don't know. We're gonna get rid of some stuff here. And it didn't make any difference. Okay. Well, let's see if that helps with the flickering at all. Doesn't look like it. So we grab our control rig, we can grab our object, move it around. We're gonna make some keys, make an animation out of it, even though I'm pretty disappointed by the quality of what I'm doing here. And see if it maybe the flickering goes away when stuff is turned off or I'm playing it in the game or something. Maybe this would be a good example. Well, except for I have built my... No, the sequencer file is not actually in... Oh, no, it is. Let's try it where I'm not actually inside of the thing. Maybe I can share the animation. I put that into the... Oh, it is kind of almost in the thing. Okay, reassign it to it. Oh, it's way over here now. I'm gonna key the position of the root. I have this plan. We're gonna see if it works. The plan is that I'm gonna make it so that, oops, I don't want to do that. That this whole animation starts at the origin of the world. That's my plan. And then it can be an animation I can use. Although apparently you can also bake your control rig down to your an animation file, so we'll see if we can do that later. I'm gonna create a transform node here, and I want to see, is this, yeah, there we go. Bring that back to 0 here. And then I'm going to do my animation and these nodes. We're going to grab this point, key everything. Well, first of all, translate, key everything. And key everything over here. What have I just done? Keyed it up and down and over. So what do? I make it so it goes up. No, you want to make a loop. So I'm trying to figure out how to loop here. It starts on the top. ends on the top. So whatever position this is. Copy that. Paste it here. Wow, everything got really weird when I copied and pasted it. There we go. And then grab this E and try to make it move. Key. Okay, so I have a loop cycle, I guess, in a way. At least I think so. I'll give it a try and see what it looks like as a loop. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay. And then let's see if I can remember how to export this. Or if it's even possible. Bake animation sequence. So we're going to put that into ARM, animation sequence. And we'll call it move 01. Animation sequence export. Transforms curves. Record in world space. That's interesting. Alright, let's see what it looks like. There we go. Got a little joint animation there. So I mean I'm glad that this is working out, by the way. This is like, yay, I'm actually doing something. But this is kind of an interesting process for how you can make character animations and work on them as inside of Unreal. Ahmed says, finally the animation worked. Alright. Appreciate that people are actually watching and helping me. Oh look, and I've got some spam too. So even spam is watching. Thanks, spam. Let me see if I can take care of that. Okay. Now, back to what we're doing here. We gotta get this file into our gameplay. That's what I want to do next. So we're gonna go back. We're gonna see what happens when we go back to our level. Where is our level? I don't see anything that looks like a level in this map. So we're gonna do a little filter for levels. Not sure why that, where was that sitting? Inside of Flying Blueprints maps, okay. And in here, we're gonna take, let's get rid of this flickery, terrible stuff. That one, there we go. And we're gonna put, well, we're just gonna drag the animation in, but I'm actually not sure how this is going to work. This is another challenge here. Like, we have collisions. How are we going to deal with collisions on this thing? I don't even have a plan yet, but it's also super tiny. This is a ginormous level. But if we play it, there it is. It's moving away. Oh, look, it's still flickering. What is up with the flickering? It's not even the, It's not even a control rig anymore. So I guess the problem is more like maybe with the skeletal mesh itself. Well, I'm gonna maybe scale that up, I guess, or possibly, even though I don't usually recommend scaling stuff up, but in this case, kind of feel like it's worth it because the environment is super huge. And then we got to discuss how exactly the collisions are going to work, because I don't think this is going to have any collisions at the moment. Oh, also, you can't just see it at all. It's totally gone. What is going on? Oh, maybe because the root is below the ground. No. Oh, kind of. No, it's totally disappearing. This sometimes happens though when you're dealing with skeletal meshes, and I think that is what's happening right now. You can see as soon as it goes off the bottom of the screen, it disappears. So it's a technique for optimization where if you can't see the root of the character, then just don't draw it anymore. And it's fixable. I just don't remember where the option is, so let's see if I can find it. Not sure if it's going to be in the skeletal mesh settings or the skeleton settings. May have to do a little search for this one. Owns to prioritize. Let's try that. Nope. All right, Google. Hopefully you have an answer for me here, because we're going to try to figure this out. I think this is I remember doing this back in the day to deal with these particular problems in cinematics, so it's a pretty relevant issue. I don't remember seeing it anytime recently though, so I'm not sure why we're having this problem right now. Let's see if I get U4 optimize or skeletal mesh hiding disappearing. First thing you should do is obviously open the skeletal mesh, which is causing the problem. Double click on the content browser and select the character from the world outliner and view in a viewport. Let's see here, what is that? It's pointing here. Percent of triangles. Max bone influence. I feel like they're solving a different problem. But let's see what it is. Percent of triangles. Why is 0.99 better than 1? Also, does that fix anything? No. Oh, you have to regenerate it after? Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're not Not in the same kind of boat here. Oh look, there's a... This one is actually at 1 again. Oh boy. Importing mesh did not help. This puts it back to the same default. Alright, Google, what else you got? Skeletal mesh disappears on mobile. Skeletal mesh disappearing. Through the lift blueprint, I clicked on the door skeletal mesh and then upscaled the bounds under details render bound scale. That looks correct. Let's see if I can find that. I think part of the problem why it's not working is that it's not a skeletal mesh in the sense that I have a skeletal blueprint that I'm using. So there's no collision capsule that's representing its position. So it's just using that root joint instead. Makes sense in hindsight. So does it make sense to make a scroller, like a whole thing for it? Force bone boundaries. Oh wait, or did I just click this checkbox right here? That might be what I want to do here. Save. No. Lock vertice color boundaries. Penalize edge collapsing between vertices and major different bones. Let's see where that option is. Maybe there's more in there that we can work with. Force bone boundaries. Max bone influences. Remap morph targets, max triangles, volumetric correction, lock meshes. No, I don't know. That's not the same thing. Everybody's happy because it worked, but I don't even have that option because this is not a blueprint. This is a different type of asset. Let me just read the question here. Looking around for the door, left door is starting, you can see the fine, but when you look at it at an angle, it disappears the image. Can anyone tell why? It's definitely very similar, except for if it's a static mesh, not a skeletal mesh, then we're not going to have the same options. It does say skeletal mesh though, doesn't it? Oh, does the skeletal mesh have a physics asset? That's a good idea. Let's try that. Wait, it does have a skeletal mesh. Oh, wait. The following bodies are in the physics assets and have no corresponding bones in the skeletals. What's okay to delete them? Oh, those are the old ones. Oh, I guess it's because we broke the rig when it was originally created in the skeletal mesh, in the physics asset. Oh, yes. I always forget how to like reset the physics asset. Generate all bodies. There we go. Now I have some physics assets. Med says, Sensei, can we solve it? Is it possible? Maybe it's possible. We're gonna find out. I'm pretty sure this is gonna be it because the collision volumes definitely gives it something to represent where exactly it exists. There we go. And I did, to be fair, completely forget what it was. See, now I should be able to collide with it too. Except for I missed. This game's too easy. Alright, here we go. We're gonna hit it. Oh, it's too easy. The thing is, I can't speed up or slow down, so I can predict where I'm gonna be. Yeah, it does collide into it. Alright. Yeah, so like, I don't know, I'm kind of fascinated by this because if you create a skeletal mesh, you have a capsule, and you also have a collisions, like a physics asset. So, but the capsule kind of overrides the physics asset unless you specify it specifically. So in this case, we have a skeletal mesh as a physics asset, but it represents all the collisions for you, so I don't have to worry about all that capsule stuff that I was thinking about before. Ahmed says, finally, you did it. Elbow cough. Yeah, I'm not too satisfied with like how long that took me to do it, but at least technically this was what I was trying to do, so I should be happy and satisfied. Yeah, mostly just annoyed because it was so slow and struggling. Just getting every little piece working was like, oh man, not this one too. And you know, like I like to represent, oh yeah, Unreal, it's easy, but it's sometimes a real struggle. Oops, I don't want to delete that one necessarily. What's under there? Oh, maybe I'm gonna move it over here a little bit. There we go. If you hit the N key, it snaps to the bottom. So that was kind of what I'm trying to do here. And then I'm gonna grab Alt and duplicate it so that we have a bit of a hallway here. Looks like a basketball net. And then you could, like, you know, I guess take more of these and duplicate them across. Now it becomes a little more challenging. Boom! And now that it's IK in theory, you could maybe, if it was a procedural thing, maybe, I don't know. You can do procedural stuff with control rig. Ahmed says, but it was worth it. Thanks for this awesome class. Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that you're getting some from it. And yeah, like there's a possibility that you can take sort of something like that, like a, I don't know, if we throw out like the control rig back in again. Let me just save everything first. Yeah, as soon as you bring it in, it creates a sequencer file. Maybe if you made like a, I just don't know. I don't know if the control rig is designed to be in real-time environments. It's too expensive potentially to be like a real-time thing. It has to be only a sequencer type of thing. You can build IK systems inside of animation blueprints too, so in theory, if you wanted it to be real-time, maybe that's the idea of how you do it. You grab the skeletal mesh and created a animation blueprint, and then inside of here, which is linked to your skeleton, there's like IK options. Oh, look, it's the same FABRIK option here. Interesting. Maybe there's something we could do with this down the road. I wonder if you could bring any like control rig. What does this thing do? Oh, okay. That's kind of cool. What do we name that control rig thing? SKM SKM cast 2? Evaluates a control rig. I don't know what to do about that. Like if there was a montage or something. Is it called a blend? No, not a blend. What am I saying here? Layer? What do they call them again? I forget. Slot. So you could output something from a montage in the default slot, and then, I don't know, somehow influence it with a control rig, I guess. Not sure what you would be doing with that control rig. And then if we're getting options that are control rig based, like this, what would you be able to do with that? And I guess we're like, I mean, it's possible I could even look up, because they do this in Unreal 5's, the demo level, where the hand is pointing a laser of the big monster, and it's directly being traced with a control rig into a location where it's moving and the animation's following. So it's the same idea, but, and I know they keep adding these like options inside of the anim graph for manipulating, but I've never really fully got a hang of what the deal was. Vector and IK alpha. So you can turn IK on and off, which would mean, I guess, what kind of output is the effector? Is that a transform? Oh yeah, it's transform information. Okay, so you could manipulate where the transform is for the effector. Coordinates or target location of tip bone. If effector location shape is bone, this is the offset from target bone to use target location. So if you had something in the world like player, get player pawn or whatever, and then you say get transform, get actor transform, could that become your effector transform? That's always pointing towards the player. Now these blue ones are in component space, so you have to convert it to local space so that it can come out of here. But I'm still confused as to like how does it know what's going on? Which control rig? How does it know what we're talking about? And it's possible that you would, very likely, in fact, that you would have multiple effectors on a control rig. So you have to specify not only the control rig that you're talking about, but also what effector you want to use. Animation node reference. I have like no time left in my stream, but I'm just looking through, and as you can see, there's lots still to learn. This is 4.9. Wow, that's actually pretty old. This is not 4.9. No way. Really? It's been around since 4.9? Wow. I feel like I remember seeing it recently. Maybe it's just been a long time. Yeah, I have a lot of learning to do in this front, which is pretty complex stuff, but also really interesting to learn if you can figure out how to leverage it. But anyway, I'll leave it there. It can get pretty deep and confusing, and realistically, all we're doing is having fun, looking at what we can do with, you know, just creating some animations that come from an IK system, control rig system, and using it to manipulate your animations without having to do it all in Maya necessarily. Like, you can really play with it. So it's kind of fun. Definitely, you know, different type of challenge. And thanks for everybody who made it through the end. Sarah says, cheers. So I'm gonna try and see what else we can do next week. I'm never really sure what to cover. So if you guys have any thoughts or any ideas that you want me to take a look at and explore, I'm happy to take a look at it. But in this world of animation, for me, it's always tons of stuff to uncover and figure out. So I got plenty to learn here. Anyways, thanks again for everybody being here. I will see you all next week. All right, take care, everybody.